Welcome back to the Leashed Mind podcast, Mental Health and Dog Training. I am your host, Mandy Bowtell. On today's episode, I have a conversation with Annie Phenix from, let's see here. I think you will most know Annie from her book that she wrote a few years ago called Midnight Dog Walkers, Positive Training and Practical Advice for Living with Reactive and Aggressive Dogs. It's a really popular book, not just for dog trainers, but for pet parents and just kind of figuring out how to navigate life with a reactive, aggressive dog. But she's also most known for her business and her advocacy for dog trainers and navigating having a business and prioritizing their mental health, which is, kind of why I wanted to have her on the podcast for talking about mental health, talking about growing your business and finding ways to best have it work for yourself. So her other big venture that she has been working on is the Phenix Advocacy Center, where you can join their Facebook group. There is a huge list of resources, peer-to-peer support for R+ canine professionals, just having resources and figuring out how to run our business in a way that sets us up in the best way possible while really prioritizing mental health and taking care of ourselves so that we're not getting burnt out. We're not dealing with cyber bullies. We're not dealing with imposter syndrome or finding ways to bounce back from that. So that's kind of a lot of the things that Annie and I cover in this episode. We talk about all those key touch points when it comes to mental health and running our business. But we also talk about how she has created, first it started with the Midnight Dog Walkers Facebook group, which still exists. It's there for reactive and aggressive dog parents and pet professionals as well. It's kind of all clustered one in that. And then the Phenix Advocacy Center Facebook group and website is more for R+ pet professionals and focusing on prioritizing themselves within their business. So long intro, but let's into the episode. Annie, it is such an honor to finally have you on. I'm so excited to just talk all mental health with you.
Thank you for being here and thank you for having this podcast. I think it's a shining light on problems that we need to be addressing sooner than later, like now.
A few years ago, even, right? Well, speaking of being a shining light, I really want to introduce you and our listeners to each other because a lot of our listeners may not even know about you just yet, which I think is a shame. And they need to know more about you and the Midnight Dog Walker in your Facebook group. So would you do me the honor of giving them a little intro on that?
Yeah, I wrote The Midnight Dog Walker. It's a book about reactivity mostly, but it's also kind of a part memoir of my experience with working with rescue dogs. Back in 2016, now it's really out of print, which I don't agree with that, but I'm not the publisher. So trainers really liked it and sold it in their classes. My next book, which is this one, this is supposed to be a second edition of The Midnight Dog Walkers.
Oh, funny.
They left me alone and they should have because I wrote way too much. It's all new. There's like one chapter that was in the Midnight Dog. So it's all new information.
Oh, okay.
And out of that, the first book, we created a private Facebook group of support. It's owners and trainers, which is kind of unique. And it's the Midnight Dog Walkers Club, and people are welcome to join there. It's more basic rules are don't be a jerk and don't promote anything that harms an animal or dog, tools or methodologies. And people don't. So many people don't join Facebook groups anymore because they can just, if they're not moderated, they just, you're just not using it right, or you're stupid. I know the quadrant, but if you went to the wrong school.
Oh my God. Yes. That is why I avoid Facebook groups.
You're in high school, but not. And some people
Apparently.
just go to instigate and
Right.
they are not welcome and we will catch you and you will be, I don't care who you are and how many followers you. And, then this year I started the Phenix Advocacy Group for positive reinforcement professionals. And that includes groomers, dog walkers. It's not just trainers or behaviorists. It's just specifically for professionals. And I'd love to talk about the advocacy.
Yes. Yes, I would love to.
It's been remarkable. It's one of those things that it's like, why didn't you do this? And I actually went through, I asked other people to volunteer, and we have 25 core volunteers that started it. We've gone through specific peer-to-peer support trainings. That's what our group is. It's peer-to-peer support training, which I didn't know was a thing. It was new to me. And I learned so much, and I'm still learning. We're raising money to take more courses for our moderators. We have 10 moderators. Well, volunteer. We have no money. We're starting to raise money. We are getting our nonprofit data, and then we will be able to do a whole lot more for and on behalf of positive reinforcement trainers. Like we are a fierce advocacy group, young. We're young, but we're also close to Crohn's. Crohn's and Neil, I say, because Neil was our one male volunteer who stepped up, Neil Rubenstein, and he's wonderful. But so we're not young. The organization is young, but it's hundreds of years put together of experience as trainers, and we want to fill in that missing gap that has been absent, where we have your back, support you. We advocate for you in whatever ways that develops, including in the media. I come from a media background. Like if you see an awful story with outdated science being quoted, we're going to have specialists, including me, because I am a journalist, contact the reporter and just try to gently.
Oh,
By the
I
way,
love that.
the science that you're quoted was 400 years old or whatever.
Right.
Well, I call it abusive science or cruel science. Most of it that dog training is based on was very cruel to dogs
Right.
or discredited, like dominance theory.
Right.
So anyway, so that's part of the advocacy. We're very much, I feel like we're kind of a sister organization to the Not One More Vet organization, which is a nonprofit. They started their group after they know from actually census data that veterinarians have, unfortunately, an extremely high suicide rate,
Right.
burnout and everything else. So they started Not One More Vet, and they started in 2016, and now they have 10 employees, and they have fundraiser. I mean, they're well adapted to the environment, and their whole goal is let's not lose another vet.
Mhm.
And we'll provide mental support, we'll provide financial support, we'll provide, now they even have legal support. So, because they're crazy
Oh, that's huge.
veterinarians. And they helped me. I found them. And so they kind of went through all of the early problems of that kind of group. They figured it all out, the trouble spots and what to watch out for.
Right.
We hit the ground running and opened our Facebook group after 2 months of training. We put it April 3rd. And it's just been remarkable. I mean, some of the stuff makes you just cry that people.
Absolutely. That we have to endure because we don't have any guidance. And so we're all just kind of, like I said before we hit record, we're all kind of just drowning on our own, figuring out how to navigate it. And it's hard to find a life preserver when we're already drowning. I would love to hear about what made you kind of just even get the idea to start this group and start advocating for this. I'm assuming it was born from personal experience.
Oh, yes and no. I am not a trainer who says, let's make friends and I'll hold hands with someone who feel is abusing a dog.
Right.
That's not a person I want in my life or I don't want to see their feed. I don't want to see the dog being harmed. So I'm not one of those trainers. And then the other part is, well, we're all force-free trainers. And then you see us tribally.
Not being force free with one another. Right.
So then you trust and you either leave the industry, and I left for 5 years. So yeah, I had burnout. I would say burnout, and large part because of that, but also dealing with clients and also dealing with behavior because I've always worked behavior. And I left for 5 years. I wasn't in any group after my book came out for a lot of reasons. We were moving houses and all sorts of stuff, and I had a great time. I had a wonderful time.
I bet.
Started painting furniture, chalk painting furniture. I'm not a good painter, but chalk paint is very forgiving. I would sell it, make enough to buy more paint, basically.
Right. Fun. Okay.
Time in so many years that I didn't care about where the furniture went. What kind of home it had, burn it in your stove. I don't care because it wasn't live. So that was freeing. And I do recommend trainers have, before you get into the industry, have it
Right.
doesn't involve a live animal. So you have some comparison to how stressful our jobs are. So anyway, that's writing this book and the new book. And I wasn't going to because I was retired. I would work with clients one-on-one every now, one or two a month, but I wasn't active really in the industry.
Right.
And my publisher contacted me, and said, hey, you just do a second edition of the Midnight Dog Walkers. Luckily, valued my expertise and did listen to me, but I couldn't find, I wanted the name because their point was no one knows what a Midnight Dog Walker is. I said,
Right.
you do if you have a dog because they're walking at midnight or 5 a.m. Avoid the triggers. But if you have a dog that's barking too much or chasing or some other or separation anxiety, you may not know what that means. That's a very specific reactive dog on leash. And that's what that book is mostly about. This book, I did agree to do it at the very last minute. I had no intention because it's hard. It's hard to write a book. It took 2 years.
Oh.
And I decided halfway right through this book to interview 17. It ended up being 17 experts around the world for different parts, which expert might fit nicely into this chapter on raising puppies.
Right. I
You know,
love that.
I love this book so much is the internet because it profoundly changed me because I was still pretty curmudgeonly. Like it's terrible. The infighting is terrible. We're never going to get better as an industry. It's toxic. It was toxic to me. It's toxic to many of us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard for the dogs. It's a horrible, and we have kind of ruined dogs, in my opinion. They're trouble, they're exceeding trouble. But in interviewing these people, I got a renewed lease on training, a new enthusiasm that I had lost.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if I ever really had it because I'm like, this sucks for dogs. And the catcher, if you don't fix it, then the dog might die.
Right.
Sleep if you were in behavior work. So anyway, long story, long-winded story. These are kind of profound aside from me because they're optimistic. I asked them, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of dog welfare? Everyone said they're optimistic, incredibly optimistic. And I'm like,
That's interesting. Yeah.
I love to ask questions. Why are you optimistic? And each one told me, and they're doing incredible things. Absolutely
Okay.
things with dogs because Midnight Dog Walkers was a lot about conditioning and desensitizing because that was 2016. That was to me, our biggest tool. Besides, it was bad and these other programs, they're wonderful programs, but they were kind of newer. And
Yep.
conditioning is old, very old and based on what I call real science. So I wanted to address other behavioral issues. So I finished writing the book. And what I realized, because we did a lot of Zoom because of COVID, I talked to more trainers. I'm still trying to answer the question of how I started.
No, you're great.
And I talked to more trainers since COVID and in the last 2 or 3 years than I have in 25 years as a trainer
Oh, I'm sure.
because of the book and because that's how we talk now. We don't go to conferences or we didn't.
Right.
So this it kind of COVID kind of helped the industry in some way. Well, had such a profound impact on me. Like I realized how much connection we have that is not apparent on Facebook because of the tribalism and the fighting. And you don't do my programs, but you don't use my science that I approve of, that I know better than you.
Hmm.
You have that title, military. I'm just shut up already, and please try to be kind to one another. As I say, if I say shut up, that was a big eye opener, And so I started doing interviews, and I interviewed like the Lena De Martinis in there for separation anxiety. I went to the kind of the known experts that are in the all positive reinforcement, of course. But then after I started talking to these people, I'm like, you're really kind. Well, I kind of chose kind people, I think because I didn't see them fighting or screaming about themselves and how they're the best.
Right.
So they were truly in it for the same reasons I got into it, which is to have dogs, first and foremost.
Right.
And then you kind of fall in love with the people who want the dogs, at least those who aren't causing you trouble as clients. So that is like, what are we doing? So we were doing all these interviews and then more friends. I made more friends with trainers, that I knew from afar, basically. But what I would do is say to anyone listening, if you're a young trainer, new trainer, you have questions about the industry, just contact. My DMs are open.
Just opening the conversation and knowing they have someone to communicate with and they can. Because
I
for
don't try.
years, yeah, we haven't felt that.
Yeah, like the founders, which were mostly women of positive reinforcement, fought like hell and went through hell, just like with women's movements everywhere.
Right.
But then it seemed to be camps. I'm in this camp. I'm in that. The people underneath them, and maybe some of the old timers. I'm an old timer, so I can say that is tribalism. Yes.
It's the hair splitting and the side picking, and you're not doing it the way I'm doing it. You didn't learn this the way I learned this. And so therefore you don't know enough. I know more. You shouldn't be teaching. And it's just like, oh, you're not allowing anyone to catch up to you though.
And shaming. Like,
Yes.
and we're all traumatized anyway. Okay, so I just
Oh yeah, let's get into that.
if you're traumatized as a kid, you fall in love with dogs, you'll probably end up being a dog trainer. So people were contacting me over Zoom, and things were happening in the industry that always happen, which is this force feed trainer yelled at this force feed trainer over X, Y, and Z, and this force feed trainer's fans on this page yelled at
Attacked. Yeah.
and you're stupid and how dare you. And so then instead of like, if you're going to attack people, how about the aversive trainers? To me, like if that's what you want to do, go and defend dogs against people who are really hurting them. Don't attack
People on your side. Yeah.
not harming dogs. Their whole existence, even if you don't agree with how they're doing it, I mean, they're not still not harming dogs. You just don't like the science they like, basically, or the
Right.
they like. So many people contacted me last year because there were several big explosions, and there will be 2 months. The month after that, it will go on. But some of these really hurt many trainers because it was confusing as some of the things that were happening because they're like, but we thought this person was on our team 100%, and now I'm curious. I don't think this person is necessarily on our team. Whatever. They were really upset. So for like 10 days, I got all these calls, and I'm so glad they reached out to me. But what I realized is I don't really know how to help except to listen.
Right.
But then I found out I started talking to them not one more class. Like, how did you get started? And they were tremendous and amazing. They now have 30,000 veterinarians and vet techs in their Facebook group.
That's incredible.
lawyers, CPAs. One thing they do, this is one reason I want to save money, and it's simple, is to do gift basket for veterinarians who are having a hard time.
Oh, I love that.
Another trainer sent a gift basket to a trainer, to say, I see that you're suffering, because people will say on their Facebook page, or we see them,
Having a hard time. Yeah.
so that's one thing, that's what very high on our agenda. And then I realized that here's the thing is a real thing that's been going on for maybe 10 or 20 years in organizations. And I'm like, we don't have peer-to-peer support, not a formal. Do you?
Not in that way of talking about the personal stuff. It might be like business consulting and talking about how to approach like a training plan, but never the personal mental health side of it ever.
We don't. What is wrong with us? Why do we not just sit so taxing?
I'm curious if it's like, do we just, and by we, I mean the schools and the courses, do we just assume that like, oh, they'll get a therapist and they can handle that in therapy? Because it's like, bruh, we need it for like the profession that we're in, though.
It's animal welfare is what it is.
Right.
No matter what you're teaching, even though you're a sports trainer, the animal welfare is still there, and the heartache is still there in everything that we do. Because maybe the dog hates agility, and you're you have to try to convince the owner not to force whatever it is.
Right.
Dealing with other people. I mean, some people have, and there's been some books and stuff, but the schools, in my opinion, are mostly training how to train, which is great. But I tell trainers, you are an entrepreneur, and you think of yourself as that. You're not dog trainer. And you also have to make money, by the way.
Right. Yes. And so many times you see them pumping out all this free content on YouTube, on social media, and it's just, and I've said this in several episodes of the podcast, but you're not getting paid for that. You're putting this out there to try and attract your clients, maybe, but the likelihood of those people taking you seriously enough to pay you isn't in your favor. And so we just keep grinding ourselves into the ground to do this, but we're not getting ahead. And then we wonder why we're burnt out and hate our profession.
I think it's passion.
Yes.
We love dogs. And I've even taken a step back, because now thankfully trainers are talking about trauma in dogs and what we have traumatized them. But that also makes us reflect on ourselves, or should, about our own trauma, because we all have trauma.
Yes.
Andrew Cornell, who I interviewed in the book, and we became friends, he said something very early that, in fact, a lot of what Andrew said to me made me stop writing the book. Like, because he has a series called Beyond the Operant that's on YouTube. I'm like, what is Beyond the Operant? What are these people? Because I had left for 5 years. So I just,
Right. You had to get reacquainted.
so I asked who, what, where, when, why. And one thing he said that made a profound impact on my life, it's a little thing, but he said, when he meets a new dog or a new person, he presumes they have experienced trauma.
I think that's a great way to approach that.
And we don't give, dog trainers are so beaten down, I think, it's like we're looking so tired, even if they're not even on social media, just our jobs are that demanding, and we don't ever talk about it, that then if you get some criticism, either from a client or the neighbor or your uncle or social media bullying, cyberbullying, which is a real thing, it can feel devastating because you're so strung out and you're so exhausted. It's like the nail in the coffin, and people leave. Goodbye. With this industry, the average boarding census bureau is 2 years. Pathetic. A friend of mine said, she's on my board actually of the Phenix Advocacy Center. She said that's drug counselors last longer than that. Addiction counselors last longer.
They do. My mom was a substance abuse counselor, and she was in it for like 5 or 6 years. And I'm just, yeah, that is a great comparison. I should tell her that because I lasted as a dog professional, like as a trainer, for maybe 4 years, if that. And then I left because it was shouldering everything from my clients. And I know that we're supposed to be that support for them, but it was not knowing how to process that for myself. And instead it got internalized, and then it manifested into, well, I don't know. I don't have enough information. I don't know who to talk to about this, because none of us were talking about our mental health. And this was like 2018, 2019. It was just, like you said, we go through these training programs. I went through a training program, never talked about mental health. It was, learning theory, how we apply things, mechanics. It was never, here's how you navigate this situation. Here's how it might affect your mental health. Like, it just never came up. And it's interesting because my mentors at the time, I know they had a lot of stress and a lot going on. So I can only imagine where their mental health was at that state, and them being over threshold and teaching younger trainers, like even going going from that perspective, you can't even imagine.
I asked on our Facebook group recently if you met a, doesn't have to be a young person, but a bright person who's new to the dog training
Green, yeah.
green, whatever their age, and they definitely want to do positive reinforcement, would you recommend they pursue this career?
No.
And it's very, very interesting. The more burnt out, the toasty ones of us that are 40 and up said no, hell no, right for anything. Garbage collector, which they earn a heck of a lot more money than we do. The average, by the way, is 35,000 a year, according again to the Census Bureau. And part of it is we are not a real profession. We are not viewed as a real profession. We are not called the professionals, and that's why we call ourselves in the group professionals. The Advocacy Center for Canine Professionals, and I encourage trainers to call each other professionals and act professional as well. Go ahead and hear that.
Right.
The reason, this just hit me in the gut. I've been through a whole reading process creating this advocacy group that I never, and the book that I never expected. Now I'm in this very deep. I'm glad that I am because it has moved me along in my maturity and growth and in ways that I never, ever imagined.
Right.
That kicked me so hard was starting to, there were 5 veterinarians who started Not One More Vet on their own because it was a crisis. One reason that we know that veterinarians hold such a high suicide rate, and this is, I learned this from Not One More Vet people, is on a death certificate, it lists your profession. And so the US government has been tracking suicide, all sorts of stuff from death certificates. And so it'll say veterinarian suicide if that's what happened. Guess what? No one's tracking dog trainer. And the vet said that to me. We won't know how high your industry suicide rate or burnout rate really is because no, you're not a profession. And I'm like, we are too. We're a profession. And so we don't know. Part of my advocacy is reaching out to universities that are studying stuff like this and veterinarians saying we can add dog trainers because we don't know. Other than what anecdotally we tell each other and we see people leaving and you never hear from them again. Really good trainers, far too many. And that's another reason I started it. It's like, if we can keep the good ones in and lift you up and help you out, we are finally, the cavalry very belatedly is showing up to try to help you stay in this industry because it's desperately needed. The Census Bureau was like in 2000. They keep calling you until you or harassing you until you fill them. Right. And I've probably put officer or writer. I don't think I put dog trainer. So we don't know what we don't know. And how do you measure and how do you see progress? If they do know, the Census Bureau did, I did see that it said 2 years was the average. So somebody is somewhere in the
Someone's putting it down. Yeah.
and something like 30,000 trainers in the US, but it's a guess. Who the hell knows? And how many are aversive and how many are force free? I've asked diversity. We just know what we feel. And dogs are so loved. Those people who love dogs really love dogs. And some people will do anything to help their dog, including firing us and working sometimes very long programs with us. And so dogs are loved. So why aren't trainers loved?
Right.
And why isn't the industry kinder to itself? Like I've started to tell trainers, and I'm going to do this in my group. I'm going to say, I think fantastic. Trainers are amazing. When I said to these, I asked for volunteers and then no dog walkers. Do you want to help me start? Not really. I only knew I wanted to be structured like Not One More Vet and that we would be a nonprofit and we would grow. That was the structure that I had in mind, and just peer-to-peer support, whatever that was.
Yeah.
24 other people. They said yes. And they're busy and they're tired and they needed this support all along that they never got it. And then we just, I had a list of things. I need volunteers for this and this and this and this. Bam, bam, including a logo. Neil got us Rubenstein got us the logo. He has a friend who does logos. So we had a logo within a month. Such a grant that you have to pay for. It's very expensive.
Right. Yeah. I make logos, so I know.
So these dog trainers are very fast at what they do. They're very accomplished. They're very smart. They love to learn. And so we were all we want to know more about peer-to-peer support. And so we had a course, we have requirements, some for volunteers and some for different ones for moderators. We had to learn the language of not giving advice. So that was new for me. Like all of the peer-to-peer stuff was new for me. I just wanted a better way to help people who were contacting me constantly saying they want to quit. It's horrible. They're depressed, imposter syndrome, all of it, toxic stew, because I was saying, contact me and we'll talk about it. And I'm like, I have to do better. I mean, I can't. Listening is wonderful. And that is what peer-to-peer support is. It's often just listening and sharing experiences. But peer-to-peer support is a real concrete thing. And not everyone is perfect or nice. It's even on my side. There are more good, kind people than there are nasty people. The nasty ones who want to fight are fighting in our groups and on their page. And I have blocked the hell out of them. I don't think I see them being nasty. I'm not communicating with them because I don't communicate with abusers, period, of any kind. I don't want that impact in my life. But if I see a force retrainer being we can all have a bad day. I've been rude, right?
Right. We get snappy, we get irritable, but that's different from just
Bullying.
saying you don't know what you're talking about, shut up,
Yeah.
and belittling. Yeah.
Really. So we have been belittled and put down. And so I'm now saying, but you're fantastic and you need to hear you're fantastic and you need people who've been in the industry. Maybe some of us have some names in the industry and some don't, but we have withstood the test of time. And we're here to tell you you're doing fine. You're doing better than fine. You're saving, literally saving this beloved animal's life day in and day out. We just need to help you focus on yourself a little bit more because we don't.
Right. Well, because it's and I think this is, just how a lot of us are because we get in this industry, because we love animals so much, because we want to help others so much that we just give and give and give. And here, how can I help you this way? Here, I have a response for you this way. And we're just giving, 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 but nothing is making its way back to us. We are not filling up our own cup. Our cup is empty and we are pouring, trickling out our cup to everybody else, but then we don't realize that like, oh, I'm taking care of everyone else. I'm not taking care of myself. But we don't feel like, at least this is what I encountered, is I never felt like I deserved to have a space to talk about that because I thought, well, maybe I'm just anxious, I'm overthinking it, maybe I'm the only one feeling this way. And since I started this podcast, oh, I am realizing that is not the case. And having these conversations with other people in the industry, it's very comforting and reassuring to know that one way or another in our careers, we have all felt this way. And it's interesting to hear how others have navigated that when we haven't had this support. But those of us that could be on that level didn't make it there because we didn't have that support. So it's interesting to have that contrast in how others have been able to work through it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it came at a detriment to their mental health as well.
That's why I went through a grieving process because I realized I needed this. I need what we're now providing and just really getting started. It did not, and still doesn't exist except, I mean, there's little pockets,
It's
but
getting there, yeah, but
talk about it, but and every profession helps itself. I mean, we don't. And so that's what we were doing. But I also want to go back to the topic of trauma because we all have had trauma. Even if you had the most loving, wonderful family, you still experience trauma because life has trauma in it. You might lose your dog, you might lose a parent, you might lose a sibling, you might get divorced, even though you still love each other. There's trauma in being alive, period.
right.
Particularly people who are coaching, a couple of trainers who are no they burn out. Now they're coaching other trainers. That's what they do full time now. Report to me that the level of traumatic childhood experiences, chronic childhood, and that's me, and dog trainers, particularly on the force free side, because it's Colleen Pilar. I don't know if you've had her,
Yes, I'm talking with her in July. I'm actually very excited.
will blow your head about the way she's so amazing. She is the one who pointed out to me in a very, I mean, I kind of sensed this. Like I love looking little memes in my spare time. And one of my memes was often a dog is a child's first experience with love. And I was like, that's because it should be your parents.
Right.
Somehow a dog gives you, because a dog at least sees you and wants to be petted and it wants to be affectionate. And I became very passionate about defending dogs because that was the only place I got love in my house. So that's a traumatic childhood. And I know that it was. I've done a whole lot of healing. I'm almost 60, but never let go of defending dogs. I mean, that's the one thing. Like, if I see a dog abused, I will interject myself if I see it happening in front of it. Whiskey.
Absolutely. It's that connection and that early experience of unconditional love. For me, I completely experienced that. I had cats growing up, and that was my first experience of unconditional love, and they love me no matter what. And so when you experience that, you feel that fierceness of they are a helpless animal, and I need to advocate for them because they cannot talk. So who else is going to do it? But then somehow we're still not considered professionals, even though it's our entire career.
And it's more than that. It's our heart and soul is these animals.
Yes.
Elaine pointed out that because of that early trauma, we get into helping and rescuing and saving dogs. Like I came out of rescue. We walked 400 dogs. I was very serious about it in Texas. Then you get into the dog world and the trauma is again back in your life because it's happening, the treatment of the dogs, either by the owners, probably not because they told us, but still they're doing what they saw on TV, as we know, on bad television. But you're witnessing that early trauma of the one thing that saw you.
Oh my God, I never even. You're blowing my mind.
I got that from Colleen. So, because the brain, understands that level of trauma. And I think it's adrenaline rush and stress.
Yes.
Like so much the good guys or good relationships seems boring and too smooth.
Too safe. There isn't that fear. Oh my God, yes. We could go into a whole thing about that.
But then we get into dogs thinking, oh, this will be fun. I love dogs. I love that. I love that. As opposed to electricians. They might like how electricity works, but there's no
They don't
level of
love it.
electricity.
Yeah. There's a certain level of passion that you can only hit with that.
I mean, so that's why it's so painful when you get it and no one warned you. And so what do? We go back into the trauma, trying to, I think, fix it. In a way, we're trying to fix our own.
Or recategorize it kinda.
No,
Yeah.
for me, that's what Colleen said that I wanted to point out. So our exquisite ability, those of us who work in whatever behavior training, when we can see and feel a dog suffering by their body language, the best trainer have a very don't do that to your dog. I can see him that just the hunching or the orcus, very lipping,
Yep.
very subtle. We see it, feel the dog suffering, and we see it, and you can't unsee it, but we see it all too well because we're vigilant. We had to be
We're in that trauma response.
you had to be hyper vigilant if you had a crappy home because you never know. Or you had to
Yes.
fight, flight, fawn, and I learned fight. I grew out of it fighting. I think anger is healthy and women are not supposed to be angry, but I was pissed. I remember looking at my family like, do not treat me like that. What is your damn problem? So my impulse is to fight and fight the dogs. And now I'm trying to hone it and listen to myself. Laura Donaldson calls it cognitive reappraisal, in which
Ooh.
reactive dogs cognitive reappraisal, like take a deep breath and think about it. As an example, I just did a really nice presentation for an international group. I thought it went well. I got great feedback. I had nothing negative. And then a man slides into my DMs complaining of all things.
God.
He's not listening. It was just a regular webinar with my little face in the corner. It's a slide. And it really tired him out. You don't go into a woman's DMs and say shit like that, man. Do not. Do not comment on how we look or how big or small our face is.
And what the hell does that have to do with what you were presenting about? Oh, I just have so much rage right now. Oh.
And then I thought, you know what? You're not worth my energy. This is a problem. And I did not take away from my confidence or all of the positive feedback that I got, which was
Good.
99 wonderful things and one nasty thing. But younger me, tired me, exhausted me would have been crushed. My
Right.
God, what's wrong with my face? What do I have to do? I have to fix
And that would have been the one thing you would have festered on and thought about, and you would have ignored all the positive feedback you got. That's how I was in my past lives.
And I think they want that. I think they want us to shut up, basically. The
Always.
who are trolling want us to shut up. And some of us are just, you can't phone us up.
I was speaking with Tabitha Kucera from Chirps and Chatter, and we had a whole discussion about how, we're not meant for everyone. And I have had to tell myself that repeatedly of I am not everyone's cup of tea. I am not meant to make everyone happy, but the people that do like me and do agree with me, those will be my biggest supporters, and those are the people that matter. But the ones that don't, they're going to keep falling off to the wayside unless they are really determined to drag you down. They're going to let it go and drop off and go harass somebody else when you don't give into it.
No response.
Yeah, and that's been a matter of me, protecting my mental health and just block and delete, because some situations there is a time for a response and to acknowledge someone, but a lot of times it's not worth your energy. It's just not. Because what can come from that aside from maybe opening up their perspective, but that's also not your job.
Yeah. This is what we're talking about in our advocacy unit. We're teaching trainers, don't take on the weight of the world. You already have the weight of the world.
You do so much.
And I say that we are the kindness. We are the infantry women of kindness, because most of us are women in the industry. We carry the infantry, but because we're women and because we live in a patriarchal society, we are told to put ourselves last as moms, as spouses, and now as trainers. And who's been defending us? That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Who defends us? Well, we're trying to defend the dog. That's something that hurts us to our core when we see them being mistreated. So it's it's a raw wound that we go into every day.
Right.
And it can be healing. Like those dogs that I rescued and fostered, that was probably more healing to me than training, because they were going to be euthanized and they were puppies. They had done nothing wrong, or very young dogs or whatever. That I do think, but then even that can get out of control.
Right.
And then it's just an onslaught of tracking. It can be we are also interviewing trainers who don't have this heartache. They might be there, but they manage it and they control their schedule and they have exercise and they eat real meals. They're not addicted, because that's another way to get through this, is to get yourself addicted to something, food, alcohol.
Well, and it's, I have my own experience of relying too much on marijuana while I was a walker and a trainer. And I have never talked about that publicly until right now, but it's because I would get so trigger stacked throughout my day of working with clients all the time and handling intense behavior cases, coming home to my tiny apartment and having to then work with my own personal dogs and shitty neighbors. And it's just, we get to the point where you're like, I just need to numb everything because I'm thinking of so much all the time. And so we do turn to other ways to turn that off so that we can actually feel normal, but then it stops us from thinking of and processing it in a healthy manner. I want to go back to where you mentioned about courses and not touching on the mental health aspect on that, because that is something I am very passionate about, because I have done several professional training courses and neither of the ones I have done touched on that at all. And I'm curious where you would like to see that change and how you would like to see that change, because for me, I think it needs to go hand in hand with the training programs. And I think before they even start the training programs, they need to really say, hey, this is what you're getting into. These are the statistics of the burnout. This is how we navigate it. And having that hand holding. So I'm curious how you would approach putting that into a training course.
Well, my first thought was that nothing happened because it's money. People are making money. But that's not necessarily because it depends on who's running the course and what the real reason for the course is. If it's just money, they don't care. They just want your money. And if you drink yourself to death, you care. That exists, even on the positive side. It's a money making endeavor versus passion that we have.
Oh, yes.
But there are some tools that I think that maybe that's what we need to be as advocates is go sit down with their director and say, you know what, other schools have suicide hotlines, within their curriculum. They have counselors on staff. They have real life, learning and like how to be an entrepreneur and how to keep your head above water while you're making $35,000 a year if you're working your butt off. One client, one dog at a time. Maybe if you're giving classes and a lot of classes, which are exhausting, maybe you're making 50, but that's
But then you're burnt out and, like, very poor. Like, what kind of life is that?
like, would we have entered this off? And once you physically take control of your calendar and block it out, which we don't do because we have that one, it's a passion and we want to save all the animals. And two, we're told not to take care of ourselves as a society. So it feels
We're never taught how to structure our calendars in that sense, unless we work with a business coach and that's more money.
exactly that we don't hear. I almost think Colleen talked about this too, but she calls it chasing certifications for a long time. When I was working part time as a trainer, if I didn't have the husband that I have, that he makes a nice living and he's enormously supportive, I could not take those 5 years off. I'm
Right.
very aware of that. That is, if you don't have a partner who makes more than you do, because they probably all, because we don't make a lot of money. And even so, if we don't have kids, I would have not been able to take that time and recover and do what I'm doing now. You own the store. If you don't show up and if you don't get new clients,
You're not making money.
you may not pay your parking rent. You can't pay your expensive dog food because you know the good dog food to get. Chasing certifications is very interesting. And Colleen talked about this. Colleen Pilar, she has a Facebook group too on ColleenPilar.com. She said that some of that is, she can describe it way better than I can, is kind of like maybe this next course, it'll make sense to me.
Right. Yes. Maybe this will touch on what I need. Maybe this will be the, ignition I need to really turn it on for me. Oh my God. Yes.
And very few they are talking about it now, barely. We're barely still just, that's why I said I went through a grief process. Like, why did we let all of these trainers leave our industry and not fight for them? Because we were too exhausted.
I'd love to know because I'm one that left.
See? I have to struggle with, but if you asked me, you hadn't been a trainer and you said, oh, should I become a trainer? I would really pause and say, I don't, right now, I don't know. Not unless you have friends who are not trainers, your support system. But so if we come from a place of trauma, the dog or the cat or the horse or whatever kind of rescued us, and then we end up defending them, and then we throw ourselves back into it, and no one is telling you, no one talks about it, and then you are kind of befuddled, and you do get tired, and when you're a burnout, it's like a blackness, and like a depression, a deepest, darkest depression, where you can't, even if you went to a counselor, like one session isn't going to cure it. I took 5 years and I had no intention of coming back. I was really, really having a good life, and I'm having a good life now, but only because of the advocacy work.
Right. Well, and you know how to moderate the business aspect and to really prioritize yourself because you've had those outlets and you're helping other trainers. So you're more in it now.
That has given me, when we first started, I would jump out of bed. I never did that as a trainer, well, first of all, you're exhausted because we do love to learn. Good trainers love to learn. We're just not learning this stuff to help ourselves very well because it's not being offered until recently. But I love the peer-to-peer support because I was really bad about trying to solve my friends' problems or other doc. Well, have you considered? Well, this is what I did. And I
Hmm.
still to this day, and I went through 2 months of training, peer-to-peer support training, I start typing out something. Well, what I would do is, if that's not helpful,
No.
people want to be heard and they want to be seen, and that you can share your experience for sure. And that's what we do. That's completely different. Like we've learned a whole new language of how to respond that I did not know existed. And I want to teach that language of response to other trainers so that we're not caught up in that. Well, here's what I did. If you were,
The trauma response almost.
yes, I think it is.
It is because, oh God, you're blowing my brain with this, Annie. But it's true. It's we have that deep feeling of, okay, they're in this moment. We need to help them. And so here's what I did. Here's what I helped. And we throw it all up and it's just like, here, let me help you, let me help you. But that's our trauma response of we just here. When it's like, oh, wait, no, that may not be what they need. Their trauma response might be different. And we actually might be making things a lot worse.
And that's not seeing them or hearing them. And it is that hamster wheel.
It just keeps going.
And now whenever I'm much better at listening to my body than your body knows before your brain does, especially a trauma response will come out of your body. The body keeps the score. And
Yes, love
uh,
that book.
just real quick, one of my trauma episodes I only realized in the last 2 years was a trauma response because I'm studying trauma. Mostly I started studying for dogs. And then I thought, well, I need to look at myself here.
Oh.
Even through tons of therapy, and I feel pretty happy in life and pretty satisfied. I had a trauma response, a startle response. Years. I've been married to a wonderful man for 25 years. If I'm tired or it's a Wednesday and he opens the door and I didn't expect him to, like I didn't hear him, I can jump.
Same.
That is a trauma response.
And I react and I snap and he's like, whoa. And I'm like, shit, I'm sorry that caught me off guard. And that was my initial reaction.
And living with that, like my husband has patients at the state. So
Same.
he adapted. He clomps down the hall or just in the middle of all of this, starting Advocacy Center and really taking deep dive on human trauma and my own responses, in spite of having felt like I've studied it all my life as a survivor. One day he thought I was asleep. He gets up before me and he's on the other side of the door and he's opening it as wide as he can because he's a great guy. And I have a heavy laptop in my hand on the other side and I didn't see him. And he opens the door and I scream, here comes the coffee cup. Like I fight. I'm a fighter. I had to stop, like override your lizard brain. It's not hit my husband in the face. And that scared me. Like it's just me and him. And COVID, it's not like no one else is here.
Right. But learned trauma, you cannot control that.
And so then the only thing that has helped me is cold showers, which I hated, especially in the winter in Utah, but just a blip. Like some people only take cold showers. Can't do that. So that gets into our own physical trauma response. We have to be aware that you're doing it. And it took me a very long time. He knew that, but we never really, it's just kind of, I'm weird. That's just a weird thing I do. I also traced it back to a memory of my jerk big brother who was abusive. He also grew up in the same horrible circumstance that I did, but he was physically abused, like not sexually, which so many dog trainers also had sexual assault in the background,
Right.
or get the dick pics in their DMs, or actually preyed upon. Women and harmed so many, and then you have women who didn't believe the women. It's a secondary trauma. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But I traced my trauma response not only to chronic trauma that you cannot get out of, kind of like a dog feeling that you learned helplessness, except I learned to fight like a dog,
Right.
because my brother was physically punching me all the time. So you a dog trainer and you had trauma as a childhood, chronic trauma, or it could be a one-time incident, but it's usually chronic and you have no way to escape because you're the kid. I would encourage you to start looking at yourself very, very carefully, not in a judgment way, but just say,
Take care of yourself.
what is my lizard brain seeing to keep me safe? That is a safety response. Me jumping and smacking back was a safety response.
It's just well, and then if we've lived through situations like that, and then we see that on social media with dogs, we see those guilty stupid fucking videos all the time of dogs made to look guilty, and I'm using air quotes because it's utter bullshit, and just things like that that triggers that trauma response. And I personally cannot watch certain videos, specifically with aversive imbalanced trainers. I cannot stomach them. I do not want to see that dog stressed. I don't care if someone is stitching a video together to show well, here's how I'd handle that situation. I don't care because I don't want to see it. I've already completely, unfollowed or muted you because I don't want to see that again. It's too much. It's triggering. And I think a lot of times people are better about censoring it now, but for
Yeah.
the longest time, we didn't. And we were constantly exposing people to that. And then we'd have these big explosions on social media, comments blow up, and people wouldn't know why. And it's just like, well, you just showed them a lot of things that are very triggering. Of course, they're going to have this response. And there's just that. I hate social media. I love it and I hate it, but there is just such a disconnect when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I'm the same way, and that to me is so deeply empathetic and compassionate towards animals first, and then you find your tribe. People who also feel that way. Well,
Right.
there's a lot of us, a couple of missteps along the way, but I think I call it secondary trauma. When you see the dog, you know what the aversive trainers are doing. You know the pain suffering. I'm the same way. I will remember that image for a month. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about a dog. I don't want to see it either. It doesn't mean I ignore it. I know it's happening, and I fought against it my entire life.
We don't need to see it to know it's happening, though.
But so if you then speak up on social media and say we don't usually say this hurts my feelings, but that's what it is. This concern, this is reactivating my trauma response.
Right.
You say, I don't want to see it. I know what they do. And then you get, well, just be nice to them. We need to be inclusive. That is the most disgusting thing that our side has done, and I don't understand it. And I think it goes back to money. Let's all just get along so we can all sell more shit to their side, and they can sell maybe their shock collars, and we get a few of the. I think it's traumatizing. It's gaslighting to say you're not seeing what you think you're seeing. If you just would have them over for a coffee, and let them explain their tools. Just be nice. Being nice is telling a trauma survivor to take their trauma and shut up.
Right.
Don't bother me with your crap. And I got another agenda, which may or may not be selling my courses or whatever it is. And so
Right.
I have been very vocal about that. Do not tell me that I don't see what I know I'm seeing. I know that animal is suffering.
Don't tell me it's something different. I know what I'm seeing. I have eyes.
And don't tell me to be
Right.
different. That I don't want anyone in my life. And I do memes about it. And then they all come for me, the ones that I haven't blocked. And then I just go block some more. But really, that kind of secondary trauma is toxic as hell and very prevalent on the forestry side. Do not tell us to be nice to people who abuse animals.
Right. And so this is interesting. This is an interesting thing to get into because I don't disagree with you. I think that we don't need to be following these people that use these methods. I, for one, I do woof culture. I am a very big advocate in force free, and I do not follow people that use those tools. And if they end up switching over and using those tools, that's an immediate unfollow. I don't need to ask for why they did that. As soon as I see it, you're done in my book. I have plenty of balanced people that follow me, and I think that's great because they're seeing the ways we approach it. They're seeing the accounts that I share and use my platform for. They're constantly exposed to it, so they're not going to not see it. But when I see accounts follow me that, have prong collars and shock collars, I'm just like, oh, like, why are you following me? But I've learned to switch that in clearly they're coming here for a reason. Maybe they might be considering leaving those tools, whatever it is. But I'm happy to see those people following more positive accounts and not being a dick.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's if you're going to come onto my account, don't be an asshole. Respect my account. And the ones that do. And I'm like, okay, you can stay here. And the ones that don't, I'm like, all right, goodbye, kick rocks. But it's not, a lot of the times we hear keep the conversation open and we need to have bridges. I think it's okay because how are people going to cross over if that bridge isn't there? I think it's great to have that bridge. I think it's great that we keep it open so that people can keep coming over and crossing over. But I don't think that we need to go and say, hey, don't like what you're doing, come over here. That's not our responsibility. We can have the resources and provide that and have that information and leave it open to people. But the second someone is mean or clearly not interested in learning, those people don't belong here. Those people, they can get information elsewhere. There's so much information everywhere, but that's not our job.
I agree. It's not our job. And I'm a mind trainer to that. Our job is to find each other, find the kind people and help each other. That's where my 90% of my focus is. And that's a lot more productive and healthy and life versus fighting against people who are going to harm dogs. And I have said many times, and in memes, I love to make memes, we're with every one of them, is that where there is a vulnerable population, predators show up.
Yes.
It's like the Boy Scouts, 80,000 lawsuits, 80,000 boys were harmed. So because people are vulnerable and
It's
there's
the vulnerability. Yes.
dogs are vulnerable. So we also have to be aware that there are predators and they do not care about the dog. They see it as a way to make money.
Yes. I was just going to say that.
Will make a lot of money. So I agree with you that for like them following you is different to me than and if they're receptive, or if they're laugh following or hate following, we don't know. But as long as they're
Right.
not intruding, saying rude shit because that is immediate goodbye. And that's up to them why they chose that action. But that's different than to me than telling me, you go be nice. Annie, go be nice.
Oh, yeah. No, don't go be nice to them. They don't deserve that. You don't, that is not on you.
It's like if I knew my neighbor was beating the crap out of his children, well, first of all, I'd do something about it. I'd
Right.
report, but I'm not having him over for coffee. I'm not being nice.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing, yeah, it's I see where people get confused of like, "Oh, well, you're telling me to have a conversation." No, we are not saying have that conversation. Do not invite them over for coffee. That is not your job, but if someone asks a genuine question and they are curious about switching over, then by all means, but don't engage if you know it's going to deplete your meter and that is going to run you out because not everyone deserves your energy and your time. And that is something that social media and being very empathetic and compassionate people, we feel that we owe those people that time and that response. No, you don't. No is a complete sentence, like so many people say. And, no answer is an answer.
I've had women say it feels rude to block. Like they're rude to you, to your face.
They're coming onto your space and being rude to you. That's
But
so interesting. And I think that can go down to trauma in society and how women are
bonding,
treated completely.
bond response, and people pleasing response.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's just the, "Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I you were being mean, but here, let me, break it down and explain it for you and shrink myself down."
I don't even say I'm sorry unless I really know that I did something to hurt somebody's feelings. But I did not apologize for my existence anymore at all. It's like I'm picking up space. If you don't like it, block me.
Yes. And
Uh,
and you're allowed to because it's your space.
And they don't have to. Society does not. As a whole, it just you keep narrowing it down. Society says women should be silent and, be pretty and be soft. Keep sweet. There's a whole Mormon FDLS thing.
Oh, I watched that whole thing. Yes, Keep Sweet and Pray. That was I had so much rage after watching.
I
It's that is a whole other conversation that a lot of us don't need to hear because it is traumatic.
yeah.
It's for me when I hear people saying, and we don't have to go down this, but I do want to touch on it. It's when I hear people say like, "Oh, it's not being used correctly," and it's not. That's like the '90s and saying, "Oh, well, you just didn't use the wooden spoon correctly. You didn't use the right belt." Like that is abuse. You were just telling me that I didn't abuse my dog correctly. I didn't punish them correctly. Like, what?
Also, gaslighting.
Yes.
It's so much to wade through. That's what I kind of toxics do. And like,
I love that.
we've had some psychologists talk to our members group, and one of the psychologists said that she works with children at risk in another country, and she says she does not wake up in the morning, flip her computer open, and see you're so stupid. You're using clinical psychology wrong. You're using the tools wrong, and they're not at each other's throat because there's licensing, there's formal training that they all have agreed on, and if I can find out that a colleague is harming children in their
You
care,
report them.
we don't have anyone to
We
report.
can't do that.
We don't have anyone to report it to because not in this country.
Not in this industry because we're so unregulated. We don't deserve to be considered a real profession. Therefore, we don't deserve to have regulation. But, Joe Schmo, who's lived with dogs 30 years, can go and teach everyone else and have a platform. And don't get me started on the he who must not be named that bonks dogs. Like,
Mhm.
it,
Millions.
well, right. And we're just like, well, let's talk to the person because they're on social media and they're easy to get a hold of and attack when it's like, oh, but who's like, what is that really doing and whose time is it wasting? Like, it's wasting your time and your energy.
But always follow the money, including look at board directors of any organization you belong to, because there's one popular organization whose director is on their training director of, let's say, and they say that the positive reinforcement. Go look. I mean, go on LinkedIn and look up. That's where I found it. Look up all the board members of any organization except for something like Tech Professional Guild, because they're up front. They drew a line in the sand and said, we do not endorse these tools. And if you sign up for our group and we catch you using it, there will be a consequence. The other groups are kind of like, nudge, much.
It's a little blurred line. It's hair split.
Then go look at the board members and see who's making some money. And if they're making money off Pet Safe, Quitmore, whatever company, there's tons of companies that sell these collars because there's big money in it. Then you need to ask some questions. Just ask, why are you on that board? Why is it a reinforcement trainer? I don't understand.
And I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of humming and hawing and oh. But it's like, okay, but why can't you give a straight answer for that? Oh, don't encourage me. I don't need to be contacting people. But I think, oh God, just it's and we wonder why our mental health is so worn down in this profession. The trust and being able to feel like we can trust superiors and mentors and people that are leading the industry. It's hard to figure out who to believe, who we can talk to about things that it's not going to get back to somebody else. And
And the
oh,
thing we want for our members is to have, like, everybody has the, whatever memberships they belong to, they have their logo on their website. Eventually, we want to have, we call it the PAC, Phoenix Advocacy Center.
you should. Yes.
They've either gone through some training or they're committed to kindness. Could you
It's
just
a safe space. It's like a stamp of approval of like, this is a safe space. Cyberbullying, yes.
you can respond in anger, but if we see bullying, in fact, there was a member that had transphobia crap on their website, on their Facebook openly. And I'm like, we say we do not discriminate against marginalized groups, period, end of story. It's lasted through the group because I will not put that bullying and it's dangerous for those people. So we do not put up with it. They have to agree to shift when they come into their group and this
Right.
is in our group. And
Do they think because it's not in the group, people won't see that? Like,
if you're a racist or if you're a homophobic person,
get out of here.
and
You don't belong in this industry.
yeah, that's my line. I don't want you in my group. Not welcome. Because that's mean and it's cruel. It's because you don't understand it or you don't like it. You still don't get to be cruel about it. At least if I see it.
Right.
Say right now we have 200 members and if we stay 200 members, but I feel like there's more of us like that are kind, that are caring, that aren't completely on the floor in a fetal position, but we might have been in the past. We have some extra spoons. We want to help so that you don't get to the place we got and you leave. Good people leave. I just
Right.
want that. If we can provide that sense of safety and camaraderie that's been sorely missing forever, please come join us for members.
So, Annie, if, maybe someone is just struggling right now, who cares if they have been in it for 20 years? Maybe they are just now considering getting into a training program. Where do you recommend they start and how could they connect with you?
I have in here, going to make a lot of people very angry. In the very back, I call it who you can trust with your dog.
What's the book that you're showing just for those that might be not watching?
Positive training for aggressive and reactive dogs. And the 17 experts in here, the interviews, which are just fascinating. By the way, some of the experts did go long, but we didn't have any space. So
Time.
they didn't give us a limit. So I didn't cut any interviews.
Oh, wow.
Since they did cut a few, but they're going to put up a website. I don't have it yet with the entire interviews. Like some are 4 or 5 pages, which is really
Oh, that's incredible.
did that. But I links in the back of the book, organizations that you can trust,
Okay,
schools,
great.
individuals. I think US, Canada, some Australia, and the UK, because I think that's really important too. Like
Absolutely.
let's put it. The same thing I want trainers who are listening to hear. Think about really hard where you put your money. The next course that you're going to take, the next accreditation, go and look at all the board members. Find out really what they believe. Because like we said, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. It's all fine. Go and you have every right to do that. Email the board members and say, well, how come you're on this? What's really happening here? And same with courses. Look at every single course because is it really force free? Is the person presenting it? Maybe it's because I've been an investigative journalist. It's not hard to find this stuff out. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they're fledged stuff.
Great.
But that's what this book is for owners and trainers, but mostly owners to get to the bottom of the truth. Journalists seek the truth. And that's what I hope this, as well as step by step, and the greats of the industry, like Melina Martino, I think introduced us with separation anxiety. And just like every major thing is that owners tell us they have problems with in studies and it's an experience, our experience is touched on in the book. Doesn't mean you're now a certified separation anxiety, but you can start.
Great. Well, I'm excited for that book to come out, so I will be sure to plug everything in. If anyone wants to connect with you now, where's the best place to connect with you? Would that be the Midnight Dog Walkers Facebook group?
That's a good place, but if they can put privately, they can either email me at Annie@phenixdogs.com, and it's Phenix, no O, dogs. And then my Facebook page, people message me all the time that we're not necessarily friends because that I have it set so that they can,
You're just like a page to follow.
and I always respond. I try to always respond unless they're rude and then they just get blocked. Rude or mean.
Well, it has been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. I hope that anyone listening just really takes to heart your mission and knows that they are not alone in this and they can absolutely manage their career in a way that it prioritizes their mental health. And I love everything you're doing. I'm so grateful that there are people like you in this industry really advocating for professionals and advocating for mental health in this field because we need it. It takes more than a village, and we're gonna get there. I know it just takes time, and I'm so honored that I got to have this conversation with you.
Well, thank you for having this forum because this is what you're talking about all the time on this, and it is crucial. And I invite people to check out our website, the phenixadvocacycenter.com, and to join us in the members group. We just ask that you are current or retired professional dedicated to force-free methods, period, end of story, and don't be a jerk.
And if you like today's episode, you like what we're doing here on the Leashed Mind podcast, please feel free to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, tag us, share with a friend, just give a little R plus, and we'll be back with another episode.